Millions of Americans were entertained by the long-running TV series Gunsmoke. It started in 1955 as a half-hour program, and in 1965 it went to a one-hour program and then lasted for another 10 years. So for 20 years, Gunsmoke was a staple of American TV audiences. One of the most beloved characters in that show was Ken Curtis, who played Festus. He was a gruffy, scrawny, really rough on the edges deputy sheriff to Matt Dillon, who kept law and order in Dodge City, Kansas.
Gunsmoke, with Milburn Stone as Doc, Amanda Blake as Kitty, Ken Curtis as Festus.
Ken Curtis was not your Hollywood type. He was born in eastern Colorado. He was born around horses. In fact, his dad was the sheriff in town. He wasn't really fond of the lifestyle in Southern California, you know, with his hustle and bustle, so he decided to come to a ranchette, or ranch here in the Central Valley of California. Not too many celebrities actually have lived in Central California in the valley. It's hot. I'm in Clovis, California. I'm not going to disclose this location, but this is the first time it's ever been shown on YouTube, so I'm proud to tell you that this was the home of Ken Curtis, where he died April of 1991. I'm going to tell you all about it on this episode of History Hunters. So this is the ranch house that Ken Curtis last lived in. Now, Ken Curtis was not Festus. I mean, when he was clean-shaven, he didn't look anything like Festus on Gunsmoke. In fact, he was a professional singer. You would not expect the kind of singing voice that came out of the voice of Festus.
I always feel when you are near that life holds nothing dear but you.
But Ken Curtis and Festus were obviously not the same kind of people. This house hasn't changed a whole lot since he last lived here and died here. Imagine that some changes have been made, because obviously 34 years have passed since he passed away, but this would have been the front, this is the front door, I should say, of the house. The owner has given me permission to come here and do some videotaping. Not sure how he ended up here in this particular part of the valley, but they moved here in 1980. His second wife was Torrie. She lived here with them, and she is the one who found Ken, who was 74 years old, lifeless in bed. The owner originally told me that the story that he heard was that Ken died in the pool. And I told him I found an article indicating that Torrie was interviewed, and she gave details about his death. He actually died in his sleep. This property goes a ways in the back. I'm not sure if Ken Curtis had that pool built or if it came later, but it wouldn't surprise me if Ken Curtis had that pool built. The day before he died was Saturday, April 27th, 1991, and he attended the Clovis Rodeo, and he rode in the car of the Grand Marshal, who was a longtime friend of his. And after dinner that night, he reportedly told his wife that he was tired. She replied, "Well, you had a busy day, and it was no wonder that you're tired." When she got up Sunday morning and quietly got up, she quieted the dog when it began barking, and when she returned to the bedroom, she noticed that Ken had not changed positions. And that's when she found out that he had passed away in his sleep. Now, he handwrote in his own eulogy, he said, "If there are to be prayers said for me, let them be said in the hearts of my friends and those whose lives I may have touched during my lifetime. By all means, let there be no sadness or grief. I want my family and friends to remember only the happy times we were together. my attributes, if any, and try to overlook my faults. That should keep you busy until the time we meet up again. So I've actually been planning for about 5 years to come to this location, but the timing just never worked out, and I was passing through the Fresno area and I decided to stop by here finally. Now, what's interesting is when I started looking at doing this video, this subdivision right next door wasn't here. So Ken Curtis really did live out in the country. It may not look like it right now because they just built a subdivision next door. But as you know, California is growing and hasn't built enough housing. And I'm not sure that Ken Curtis would appreciate the fact that the neighboring land's a bit filled with houses. I'm assuming that Ken's bedroom was on this side of the house. He lived a good long life. He was basically a cowboy at heart, and you know, he played a number of roles. He played in Conager. He played a lot of straight roles. I think Festus was more of a comedic role on Gunsmoke.
This here's Festus Hoogan.
Hi.
He's gonna take it.
Fred, I told you to get rid of that hooch now, and I mean it. You ain't gonna go out there with your just booze and stick.
Pa put me down on the ground and he said, let's see if he's gonna kick like a mule or run like a rabbit.
What'd you do?
I bit him, that's what I done. Bit him right on the ankle.
You know something, Jimmy? A feller hadn't ought to run from nothing, 'cause a man just can't get nothing did that way. You know that? Anything happens to Matthew out yonder, you better make sure that I'm stretched out right beside him, because if I ain't, I'm gonna get after you like thunder after lightning. I'll take oath on that. There just ain't no sense of killing somebody over a bunch of silly words. So tonight when you get home and tell her where you been, well, you watch her grin. Now, I don't mean just her mouth, but watch her eyes grin, too. There ain't nothing prettier than that, Glenn. Supposing I was to go to work and learn how to read writing.
Well, yeah.
Well, how'd I know that the feller that wrote the writing was writing the writing right? It could be that he wrote the writing all wrong, and here I'd be just a reading wrong writing, don't you see? You probably been doing it your whole life, just reading wrong writing and not even knowing.
He was such a skillful actor that you almost believe that he was Festus and that he actually did speak like that. He didn't speak anything like it. In fact, there's some clips of him singing that I'll play for you to show what a professional singer he really was.
Ken Curtis was actually born as Curtis Wayne Gates in Lamar, Colorado on July 2nd, 1916. In 1926, his dad moved the family to Los Animas, where he served as the sheriff of Bent County, Colorado from 1927 to 1931. The future Gunsmoke star lived with his family below the jail, since the jail was on the second floor and his mother, Nellie Sneed Gates, cooked for the prisoners. Young Curtis acted as the substitute jailer when his father was out of town. The jail has been preserved on the grounds of the Bent County Courthouse in Los Animas.
Dad used to be sheriff back in Bent County, Colorado, and I was a turnkey at a very early age. I usually did the feeding.
Was this a real exciting thing for you then?
Well, I guess it was in the beginning. It became old hat after a while, but it was just a job for Dad because it was during the Depression years. We had one group in our jail that committed, at that time, one of the most famous bank robberies in the West, the Lamar bank robbery, the Flegels. You might remember the name. They were, at one time, several of them were the most wanted men in the country.
While attending Bent County High School, Curtis played quarterback for the football team. He wanted to be a doctor initially, but he was so successful as a songwriter in the student productions at Colorado College that he left school and headed for Hollywood. There in 1939, he was assigned as a staff singer for NBC Radio. He sang briefly with Tommy Dorsey and changed his name from Curtis Gates to Ken Curtis. Then, before enlisting in the Army in 1943, he sang with Sheffield's band.
If you're whistling 'cause you're happy, be very careful, Pappy. No telling just what a whistler's mother-in-law will do. You're supposed to be out a fishing, not standing here a-wishing that maybe a girl will start winking her eye at you.
After the war, Curtis was a singer who combined music and acting. Columbia Pictures signed Curtis to a contract in 1945 to star in a series of musical westerns with the Hoosier Hotshots, playing singing cowboy romantic leads. He was the lead singer of the Sons of the Pioneers from 1949 to 1953, recording such big hits as Room Full of Roses and Ghost Riders in the Sky.
Made me blue. You'd have a room full of roses.
He appeared in a number of John Wayne movies, including Rio Grande, The Quiet Man, The Searchers, The Horse Soldiers, The Alamo, and How the West Was Won. While working with director John Ford, he became interested in his daughter, Barbara Ford, and they were eventually married. The union would last for 12 years from 1952 to 1964. 2 years later, Ken met Torrie Connolly, who was the secretary of the Rodeo Cowboys Association office in Denver. They were married shortly thereafter. Curtis also appeared in the 1955 comedy Navy classic Mr. Roberts, along with Henry Fonda, James Cagney, William Powell, and Jack Lemmon. In 1959, Ken Curtis was a co-producer of two B-movie flops. The one movie that he produced but didn't appear on screen was A Giant Gila Monster, in which a gigantic mutated monster begins stalking a rural Texas community.
Somebody was hurt. There's blood all over this thing. What is this black menace that kills everything it sees and hears? No human mind could imagine the enormous destructive power of this maddened, killing thing.
The other was The Killer Shrews, in which Ken appeared on screen. The story follows a group of researchers trapped in a remote island compound overnight by a hurricane and find themselves under siege by the abnormally large and venomous mutant test subjects. Ken Curtis played 7 different roles on Gunsmoke before his definitive role as Festus in Season 9, following the departure of Dennis Weaver as Chester. His first Gunsmoke episode was Jayhawkers, in which he played a cowboy named Phil Jacks working a cattle drive. In the 4th episode, Phil Jacks evolved into Briscoe for the episode Change of Heart.
I'm not looking for trouble with you, Marshal. This Jerry here has got me all riled up, him and that girl.
Briscoe then became a spooky-eyed bad man named Jesse in the episode named Ex-Urbanites. In the episode titled Speak Me Fair in the 5th season, Ken Curtis took on the role of a Kiowa tribe member named Scout.
You got time to jaw a spell?
In the 9th season, he played ladies' man turned killer Kyle Kelly in the episode Loverboy.
Oh, someday maybe, who knows?
And then there was Frank Eaton, the look-alike bad guy in the 1972 episode Alias Festus Hagen. A marshal came to town and arrested Festus for murder, believing him to be the criminal named Frank Eaton, but Marshal Dillon worked to clear Festus's name. The producer of Gunsmoke, Norman MacDonald, said, quote, "The male on Festus is either absolutely white or absolutely black. Some people say they can't stand him. Others say they like him better than Chester. They either love him or hate him, but 90% say they love him."
He said, Festus, don't never let a man draw first. He'll shoot your head off full of holes and stuff. He said, swaller good whiskey when you got a thirst. And bullies is pikers if you call their bluff.
With Gunsmoke and TV history, from 1983 to 1984, Curtis appeared as Hoyt Coriel in 22 episodes of the Yellow Rose TV series. Curtis's last acting role was as the aging cattle rancher Seaborn Tay in the TV production Conager, 1991. Those of you who watched the Disney version of Robin Hood in 1973 would have heard the Festus-like voice of the vulture character Nutsy.
1 o'clock and all's well.
Torrie passed away in 1997, presumably in this house. She is buried east of Fresno, but you'll not find a grave for Ken Curtis. He was cremated and his ashes were scattered in the Colorado flatlands.
Now, the community of Clovis has not forgotten Festus because they've erected a statue, and we're going to go over and take a look at it right now. Festus in a statue form. I have to say that downtown Clovis is cute. It's like a little western town. I definitely want to employ some western feel here. But right over here in front of the bank is the statue of Festus that we came to see. And here he is. Here's the statue of Festus. They paid tribute to him here, and I guess we're in Clovis. This is exactly how he looked. He's got his little deputy marshal badge on, made out of concrete it looks like. He even has his boots on. He's got that little smirk that everybody knows Festus to have. Right here is a little narrative about Ken Curtis, portrayed Festus Hagen on Gunsmoke TV series from 1962 to 75.
The statue was donated to the city by local sculptor Samantha Cowan in 1991 and unveiled in February 1992. It was moved 200 feet from the rear of the Clovis Big Dry Creek Museum to the front of the credit union because it was in the way of downtown Clovis restrooms. The credit union paid roughly $2,000 to move the 900-pound statue. Only 2 weeks after the statue of Festus was placed, it had its legs severed and his neck and arm cracked. In 2000, the statue was attacked with eggs, toilet paper, mustard, and paintballs before being rolled off its base.
He even has bullets in his belt. Actually, I think he did kill somebody in one episode. Now, I did not mention the fact that the reason I knew that Ken Curtis lived at that house is my mother worked for Pacific Gas and Electric, and she had some account information, and she saw the name of Ken Curtis with the address, so we knew decades ago where Ken Curtis lived. So do you think it's coincidence that they put Festus right outside of a bank, maybe to keep people honest and not rob the bank? Just an idea. So I really hope that you enjoyed this episode. I appreciate your time watching. If you could please leave us a comment. How many of you loved Festus on Gunsmoke? How many of you thought he was most annoying? How many of you thought he was the real thing, the real Festus with the real drawl? I mean, when you contrast Ken Curtis with Festus, they are two totally different animals, and it's really a testimony to the acting skills of this man. Hey, thank you so much, and we'll catch you on the next adventure on History Hunters.